Hello, everybody. My name is Alec Kassin. I am a chronic pain coach. And one thing that I like to do is highlight stories of real clients who have had incredible breakthroughs in their chronic pain. And I am so delighted to be joined by somebody who fits that bill perfectly, Nune, a former client of mine who has a really incredible story to tell. I'll share just a little bit about. Um, how I came across Nune. We were in the inner NBA program together that was put on by NYU and Sounds True. And we had actually, well, we had missed connecting on a call about something completely different before I was doing this chronic pain coaching. And I actually kind of, unfortunately, it was my fault. Nune was present for a call that I missed. Um, but a year later, we got connected from through John, who was a former client of mine who had talked to you about chronic pain. And I know you were in a pretty difficult place with this groin pain that you had been dealing with for a year and a half. You had this hip replacement, and nothing was working. I know this place of desperation that you're in. And now, as we were hopping on before we started recording this, you were talking about how literally every single day you pretty much you have a moment of gratitude of being able to walk and be active and not have pain. And I'm just really excited to for the world to hear your story. So welcome, Nune.
Thank you.
Yeah. So share just a little bit about what your life was like before you had any chronic pain, the activities that you're doing, what your life was like.
So I was a pretty active person. Um, I um, I am a fundraiser and I love talking to people and pretty active, love my job. So that was going well. And I was an avid dancer. COVID kind of put a little bit of break on it, but I used to dance about once a week, twice a week at least. So that was a big part of my life. I'm also a singer, so going once a week to my voice lessons. I love to cook. Um, I cook a lot and invited friends, and so it was a pretty active lifestyle. I am and I was in a um, kind of long-term relationship, so that was going well.
Mhm.
Kind of active and doing things together. So yeah, peachy. Life was life
Life
was
was great. Yeah,
great.
pre-chronic pain. And then tell us a little bit about what happened. Like when did you first start to experience pain and how did it grow to become what it did?
Yeah, so I think this was year 2023, the beginning of year 2023. We were, all of us were kind of coming out of COVID slowly, opening the eyes, looking what's around. And so I realized that now I can go to the gym and, because we were all kind of deprived of it. And so I went to the gym and I did stretching. I thought I overstretched a little bit, and so I didn't have any pain. And then in the evening, I went to a concert and I could not walk from the car to the entrance of the concert. I had to take the elevator and go handicap route. So that was the beginning. I think it was February of 2023.
And
Um,
that was your groin, right? You were feeling that
that was
pain.
my groin. That was
Yeah.
my groin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So every step was painful. And so I don't know if you want the long story or short story, but I saw in a course of a year and a half. I changed three doctors, three surgeons. I had three MRIs of the hip. I had MRI of lower back because some people thought that maybe that's the reason. Had two injections in the joint, in the hip joint, one injection into the muscle, three sets or three periods of therapy. um, you name it. I even saw a rheumatoid arthritis doctor. I
Mm.
had anti-inflammatory and um, anyway, it was a lot. It was
Yeah.
a lot, and nothing was helping. Nothing.
Did I'm curious, did you get any little bit of relief from those? Like, would you have a period of like maybe a week or two where the pain went down a little bit, or was it just, nothing the whole time?
Yeah, no, it did like the first doctor told me like, why don't you take complete rest for about a month or 6 weeks and we'll see what happens. And it did help.
Mm,
Um, it did help a little bit, but then I traveled. I'm originally from Armenia, and so I traveled home, and of the month of being there, half of the month was normal, and then the second half of it was unbearable.
mm.
So the
And
pain returned.
yeah, and that can be really common. I speak to a lot of people who say, "Yeah, I tried acupuncture or physical therapy, or started this new routine, or I got injections, and it helped for a little bit, but then the pain came back." And a lot of the time, we talk about the placebo effect and the power of the mind, and that can be at play in terms of a treatment that has a little bit of relief, but then when the pain comes back, despite it. So you're in this place where you've tried all of these different treatments, nothing was working, and what for you was what were your options? Like it sounds incredibly challenging.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that, MRI, X-ray did not show any problem in my hips or in my right hip. It was the right groin hurting, and everybody was thinking, well, that's the area. Let's look at the hip. And
Mhm.
so um, they even showed me the pictures of both hips, and they said, look, they are almost equal, and you have no loss of cartilage. You're not a candidate for surgery. And I was so, so desperate to live normal life because I couldn't do my groceries. I had to have a scooter. I couldn't walk. The problem was I could sit, I could lie down, I could stand, but walking more than 30 steps was began causing pain, bad pain. And so, and I told this all to the third surgeon I saw, and I was like, okay, nothing is wrong. Then how do you suggest I live my life? It was horrible. And he said, anyway, I convinced him to do the surgery. So he did tell me it may not help, but I had no other choice. And
Yeah.
so I went for the surgery only to discover 30 days after the surgery that the pain came back and even more ferociously.
And that was the hip replacement, right?
Yes,
That you got.
yes,
Yeah.
hip replacement.
Yeah. So you've basically gone through, and this can be so common for people. Like they have been really unsatisfied with their treatment. They've tried all these things. They've spent so much money. They've seen so many different doctors and specialists. They're not finding anything that's wrong, or if they do find something that's wrong, the treatment doesn't help. They're unable to live their daily lives, do the activities that they love, or even basic things like go grocery shopping, and they're unsure of what to do. They're like, medicine essentially has almost failed them in a way. Um, so you're in this place of desperation, and then um how tell the story about how you got connected with John and how you started to learn about the coaching work that I do.
Yeah, so you mentioned John in the beginning, and so we all were in the same program in our MBA program at some point, sooner or later, with a few years of difference. And so I contacted him, which a friend gave me his information who was in the same program, and she said, you know, um, I think John was in disability because of his condition, and now he's climbing mountains. And so maybe you should call him. And so I did, and sure enough, John was somewhere in the mountains, and he sent me your information, and he said, when I come back, come down, we'll talk more. And that's how I contacted you.
Yeah.
And because there was nothing left, honestly, nothing left. Um, and I think if I remember correctly, you gave me some information to read Dr. Sarno's book.
Mm.
He's the founder, or I guess the patriarch of the method. And then I believe you also shared a video with me,
Yeah.
Dr. Schubiner's video about his work. And so um, and so that's how we started. And I had no other choice.
Yeah.
I had to try the next available thing. And so that was my work with you.
Yeah. And so essentially, is it fair to say that you came to this work not in terms of, oh, wow, this is the solution, this is the thing that's going to fix me, but rather with, skepticism and the idea that I got no other options. This doesn't really feel like it's maybe the best thing, but I have to try because there's nothing else left.
Exactly. And that was exactly my state of mind. Watching the video about Dr. Schobiner and seeing how he helps his clients or patients, I think that stirred something in me, seeing the desperation of those people in a whole gamut of conditions.
Mhm.
So it wasn't necessarily only pain, could be insomnia, could be other things. So
Mhm.
um that made me start.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've started on this journey. You're like, I have no other options. This is all I got. Share a little bit about what your recovery journey was like, because, within a few weeks, you had a pretty big breakthrough.
Yeah, I think we started working together last year in on maybe September 11th, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken. And at that time, I couldn't walk over, as I said, 30, 40 steps. And then I had a fundraiser event at my work, for my work, big event with 175 people, big venue. And so this was on October 5th. So September 11th, October 5th.
Mm.
And I think I walked without even blinking that day. Maybe I popped the Tylenol, I can't remember, just in case. But I walked 13,000 steps, and the first thing I did, I sent you the picture of that record of that, because not the funny, but the amazing thing was that the next day I wasn't hurting either.
Yeah.
So, I thought maybe I was high, it was the event, next day the pain will come back. It didn't.
Mm. That's a
So,
that's pretty incredible after a year and a half of chronic groin pain where you literally had to be on a scooter to do your groceries. Within 3 weeks, you walked 13,000 steps without pain,
and even more after that.
and even more after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, what happened in those 3 weeks? Like, what shifts happened within you to go from that place of desperation to one where you're really seeing results?
So, um, I think the main thing was the emotional work that you led me through, and all the emotional breakthroughs that we had through our Zoom sessions. I also tell people this happened over the Zoom. I got healed over
Right.
Zoom, and people don't believe it. But yeah, the emotional work that we did together. And I remember you telling me it doesn't matter which part of your life you pick to work on. It can be from yesterday, some stress, or it can be from childhood. We all have childhood traumas. Um, and whatever was rising, I was working on that with you. Um, Lots of tears shed,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, on my own, also, I was doing the same work to the best of my ability on my own. But I think, um, yeah, and just I think also the trust that I immediately developed towards you, and consequently towards the process, I think that helped. I think I also asked you, Alec, I can't remember when it started getting better. Like
Mm.
I can't, I we you told me to journal, so I diligently journaled. And I went back to the journal. I'm looking, okay, where does it say, oh, I don't have any more pain? It doesn't. There is nothing about that. And which is also pretty amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that was the journey. Work with you, work on my own. Lots of hours spent on my own, and I think also was very super comforting that you were available almost 24/7, if you will. um yeah, that was helpful also.
Yeah. And what you touch on there is so important because there's this idea that if you experience pain in some part of the body, it must be due to something being wrong with the body. But in your case, like you'd been to all the specialists, you've seen all the doctors, got all the tests, and nothing was wrong with that part of your body. And, people aren't, it's not necessarily common knowledge that emotional issues, stress, pressure, past traumas can manifest themselves in real physical pain. And you're, of course, somebody who I'd say is tuned in. You're doing this meditation teacher training program, and you're aware of the mind body connection. But it's really incredible the results that can be achieved by turning inward and looking at the emotional realm. And the words you used of doing this on my own, there's such an idea that we need some external thing to fix us, either a titanium hip or some medication or a doctor. And when you say, doing the work on my own, it's like, of course, you're supported doing it, but it's ultimately the healing that comes from within. And I think that's what's so powerful about this method is you're not relying on external stuff to fix you. You're doing the work yourself.
Yeah, and it was, when I was doing this work, and when the next day I felt some relief, I was still in disbelief. I would say, this cannot be true. Like I did all this work yesterday evening, sat, meditated, and just was with my emotions. And the next day, or maybe the day even after that, you never know how it goes. When I got the relief, I still was in disbelief. I like, I mean, I knew it was working, but then I was like, how is it possible?
Yeah. And that's, you know what? Sometimes I don't fully understand it either. Of course, I understand what's going on, but you never exactly know when somebody is going to have a breakthrough. But it's always incredible to see. Um, I'm curious how your understanding of your pain itself changed during the experience. Because one of the things that we talked about is um, this idea of actually doing these activities that were bringing on pain in order to decondition, to kind of unwind the association that you had like with getting in and out of the car and pain and things like that. Talk a little bit about how your understanding of pain changed and how you approached those activities that were bringing you pain in the past.
So I think my answer to this question lies in my answer when people ask, so I mean, they ask me, how is this possible? And I have to, and it's hard to explain, but I have to kind of explain in very simple way. And this is my way of understanding it. And this is how I got, how the transmission happened from you to me. So in my mind, so we all have emotional baggage. Like, how can we not? Um, and it's hard to be with it. It's hard to be with something in your childhood that you feel deeply ignored or not loved or nor not worth it. And when those emotions come up, it's hard to be with them. And so the brain jumps in, and it says, okay, Nune or whoever, this is hard. Let's put it in your groin or in your hip, let's put it there and focus on the pain, focus on that groin. Don't focus on these emotions, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard. And that's how I explained it to myself and then to the friends who were asking me the questions. So that's my understanding. But I also did some kind of maybe proactive work, and I started walking, maybe aiming at 10 pain-free steps in the beginning. And I always imagine those pathways of neurons in my head, um, those that are causing the pain, those old, rusty pathways. I imagined them that way, but then I also imagined this brilliant golden, silver, new pathways forming instead of those rusty ones. I literally used that imagery to help me. And again, I don't know how, but it worked. Those it was 5 steps, then 10 steps, then a few more, and
Yeah,
then 30,
many more.
30,000. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you bring in that visual, because visualization is something that I talk about in the pain-free comeback program, and how it can be so powerful. And the whole idea here is, these emotions, the stress, traumas that we've experienced, the stuff that we try to push away and stuff down, it's coming out in real physical ways. But the pain is real, right? It's your brain that is essentially causing it, and you put it so well. It's essentially saying, hey, we're going to give you this pain to think about so you don't have to think about all this other emotional stuff. And there have been studies that have been done that show that humans have been conditioned to prefer experiencing physical pain as opposed to emotional pain. So I think what you said there is really, really important. Um, and when it comes to turning it off, like having that imagery that you employed of like these old rusty pathways in your brain that are essentially being discarded, they're gone, and then these new ones, stepping into this essentially um, this pain-free ability, this pain-free brain, essentially this safe brain, I think is really really beautiful. Um, and I'm curious as well, on the recovery journey, were there, setbacks and things that you faced, and how did you navigate those? Because, no healing journey is linear.
Yeah, that's the beauty of working with you, Alec. Of course, I had setbacks. They were not as, the pain was not as horrendous as it was before, but even more so, just the notion of the pain coming back was just so scary, and thinking, oh my God, it worked and now it's not working any longer. I did all this work, it worked as always for a while, and then you were there to kind of catch me and give me also um, the parameters of the process, how the healing goes, and how it's not a straight line, and it
Yeah.
can go up and down until it straightens. So that was very helpful.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you shared that too, because yeah, healing journeys aren't linear, and in those times where, the pain is higher, like it's important to know how to respond to it, and to trust in the process, and know that it's completely normal, and that, everybody on their healing journey goes through those ups and downs at one point or another. Um, so at, in terms of the recovery, if we fast forward, like, share a little bit about what your life is like now, almost, 10 months since we started the journey. Um, and we worked together for, I don't exactly remember, was it 3 months, 2 months?
Yeah, probably good
Yeah.
3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. What has your life been like for the past 6 months?
So a couple of things that I will say. I know you mentioned we worked 3 months, but we worked intensely, probably for 6 weeks. And then it kind of started webbing down,
Mm,
kind of. So, but you were there to support, just wanted to make sure it's not 3 months of this intense work. It wasn't that. So,
good point.
Another excellent example is that, as I said, I'm from Armenia and I go visit my family. My mom, she's 82, and I go visit her every year. My brother's family is also there. So it's an annual trip for me to Armenia to go be with my family. And last year, I purchased tickets um, to go to Armenia in May, and I could not travel.
Mhm.
Um, I returned the tickets, and so I wasn't able to do it. Fast forward to June, I traveled intensively to Armenia, to France, did many more steps. So, and there was no fear that it may not happen. And interesting thing, I think we were working last year. We started in September. The real breakthrough happened in October. In November, I traveled home, so I was able to go home. That year, I took my cane with me because I was like, "What if it starts again?" This year in June when I traveled, this thought didn't even pass my mind. Like it
Yeah,
didn't even occur to me that I need a cane. So,
that's a real recovery right there. That's when you know you've made a recovery, when you don't
yeah,
need the cane.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, life is just back.
Yeah. And you've talked about the things that you were doing previously, like, you're a social person. Like you were just in Armenia, you were singing in a choir in France and doing all this international travel. And it's just been so wonderful to see you get back, going to the gym. And there's a I think there's an energy that you get back when you're not always thinking about and suffering with chronic pain, that it can, when you're in the middle of it, it can be sometimes hard to remember what that's like to actually be pain-free and carefree, and to just know that you can do an activity without having to worry, oh, do I need to bring my cane or not? Or can I actually do this? So, let's see, when it comes to some of the broader shifts, like we're talking about this emotional work that we did, this uh deeper work that I think pays dividends in so many different ways outside of just getting rid of pain. Um, I know when we connected, you talked about how your self-confidence increased, your sleep got better. Talk about some of the other ways outside of just your pain going away that your life has been different.
Um, I think right now it leveled up, or leveled down. I don't know what's the correct word, but as soon as I started feeling better, I mean, immediately I have no doubt that I can purchase that air ticket and go. And then um I started doing so many things after I got better, and it was just not the courage, but um just the openness to, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. um yeah. I think that was, I found myself, and I think maybe I shared it with you, that I'm doing too much, and it's because I'm too excited. So it's just the capability or capacity
Yeah.
to do more, and to try different things in life. And um, yeah, I just signed up to teach a small course in a program here in Cincinnati for people over 50. So I will be teaching mindfulness, kind of um, getting my feet wet a little bit in what I'm learning or studying now. So yeah, and just it's just that the future is not as grim as it
Yeah.
was. It's actually good.
Not grim or not grim.
It's not grim. No, it's not
Yeah.
at all.
So what would have happened had we not met? Had you
Oh,
not
wow.
discovered this work?
I can't think about it, Alec. Because I will tell you, when the hip replacement didn't work, I was almost every day contemplating, is this the time to go on disability and and lead my life on the couch in the wheelchair, and how is this all gonna work?
Mm,
So that's what it would be probably
yeah.
if we didn't meet. I am I'm so grateful to myself too, because I did not give up and I tried one more thing. Um, Obviously, I'm grateful to you, but I always think about people. Some people are resilient and some not. Some people give up easily, and I'm not. There's no blame in that. It's just the way some people are, and some just forge forward. And I'm always curious about what is that, where is that point where some go forward and some don't. And I'm just so glad I did not break.
I love that point, and it's so important because these solutions, the answers can be out there, but unless you're willing to continue to try with the risk of failing, the risk of not finding the thing, the risk of being disappointed, unless you're willing to risk that, what's going to change? And I think it's absolutely true that like you deserve so much credit because there are people out there who, for whatever reason or another, and like you said, no blame, they don't choose that. They do choose the other route. But I think uh, your story is just such a beautiful example of what happens when you keep trying, when you think outside the box, when you ultimately don't settle for a life of restriction and think, this isn't working right now and this isn't going to be my future, no matter how bleak it looks right now. And I think you and the numerous people who have made recoveries just like you, there's so much that people can be inspired by that resilient attitude. So, so with that, is there, the folks that are looking who are watching this right now, there might be some people who are in a state that they can really relate to your story before you had your recovery. Maybe they're suffering right now with their own form of chronic pain. Maybe they've tried all the solutions and really not found any answers. What would you say to them if they're watching this right now?
Good question. And I don't want to take it lightly. Um, I think that supreme trust in the process and into the person you're working with, in this case, in you, that's probably 80%, 70, 75, 80% of the deal, I would say. And just have trust. It may sound weird, it may be expensive also. Um, but as I tell so many people, it's the best investment I made into my health. I mean, there is no doubt it's the best investment. It wasn't easy for me, but I found the ways to do it and trusted it. And I also want to say that every person has an immense inner power to be with themselves and trust their bodies to do the work.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a combination of different things, but the trust is the most important thing, I would say.
Mhm. Very well said. Very well said. Well, if anybody is out there watching this and you resonate with Nune's story, if you want to get in contact with, you said you would be comfortable if people wanted to reach out to you,
I
right?
will be more than happy to talk about the process and details.
Perfect. Well, we can put your contact information in with this video. And if anybody wants to have a free conversation with me about their chronic pain, if Nune's story resonated, you can reach out to me as well. We'll put the contact information below. And with that, Nune, I just really appreciate you being open to sharing your story and just your transformation. And I deeply know that it's going to help a lot of people who are struggling. So thank you.
Thank you. I could not share this. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. All right. Well, take care.
You too.